Hello, everyone. So I'll start off by telling you a quick story. There was a rabbi who often would give sermons from a pulpit, kind of like this, on Saturday mornings, and he gave the best sermons. They rocked the house, and they would last sometimes 15 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes if they're really good, a half hour, really get into it. The Spirit was moving him, and people loved it. So one Saturday morning at the reception after services, one of his members comes up to him. We'll call the member, for lack of a name, Mr. Cohen. And Mr. Cohen says, "I run a daytime talk show, and I would love to get you on that talk show. What you talked about today was so inspiring. I think like it'll just move the audience. Can you just make some time to come onto the talk show on Tuesday morning?" And the rabbi says, I guess I'll do that. Sure, why not? But there's only one problem, Mr. Cohen says. He says, "You speak so powerfully, but the slot is only for 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. It's a TV show. We have to snippets." And the rabbi says, "No problem. I can bring that down to 2 minutes." And Cohen says, "If you can do that for the talk show, can you do that every week?" So, I know I'm the penultimate talk before lunch. So I don't know about you, but in my community, lunch is a big deal. Food's a big deal. So I understand if your stomach says I'm a little hungry. So I'll try and be concise and keep the 25 minutes, although a fair warning, rabbis can be a little verbose. We can be a little long-winded, but I will try and keep it down. So the talk for today is preparing for the technical interview, and I think it's a really important one for people who, like me, came into coding, came into this field from backgrounds that were not the traditional backgrounds. Meaning I didn't graduate with a computer science degree, a logic degree, a math degree. I majored in psychology and minored in political science and a lot of theology. And so how do you prepare for these conversations when you don't come from that place? So just first a little bit about who I am. So does this work? I was born and raised in San Diego. It's a beautiful city at the very edge of California, right on the border with Mexico. A great childhood, a lot of time at the beach, a lot of fun. And I also was a bit of a nerd in San Diego, and so I helped to create a couple meetings. This is from 2000, I think, this website. This was the San Diego 2600 meeting. Does anyone remember 2600 magazine? I see a hand, 2600 magazine. 2600 magazine was like a hacker magazine. It was cool in the 90s, early 2000s, and they had like meetings throughout the world. So I created the San Diego chapter of the 2600 meeting, and this was our website, and it just recently got a facelift apparently. Capital W, capital S, that just tells you so much about the time. And I'm up all the way up there. I was scalor because I liked ska music, so I'm like, let's get into Scalori. I was a major nerd. And so in the San Diego 2600 meeting, we also created TorCon. The contrast is off a little bit, I apologize. TorCon. TorCon is a computer security infosec conference. It was started in 1999. It's in its 20th year next year. And now there's 3 TorCons. There's TorCon San Diego, TorCon Seattle, Tor Camp, which is happening in a couple of weeks in Washington State, 5 days. And there's also Tor World, which is a cruise in Antarctica, a hacker cruise in Antarctica. And so I was about 15 or 16 when we created this conference. My parents had to sign off on the room reservations at the UCSD Price Center, where we had the first event. Now it happens at the Convention Center. And this was the announcement I sent out to some listservs. That's me up there. This was 1999. TorCon, San Diego, California's only, all caps, comprehensive, I love the language, computer security conference. And what we're going to do there, we're going to bring a comprehensive, interactive, and enjoyable conference to the Western United States that will help make the public aware of the importance of computer security. And it cost a whopping $35 to come to the conference. It now is a little more expensive in its 20th year, but it was $35. And so after that, from my childhood in San Diego and being a bit involved in computers, I moved to New York. So from the sunny San Diego to New York, and that's what it looks like all year if you've never been there. Believe me, that's New York City. And I went to New York to a small liberal arts Jewish college in Queens, in the neighborhood of Flushing, New York. Anyone ever been to Flushing? Flushing's awesome. Flushing is like basically one of the most diverse neighborhoods, I think, in the United States. It's an amazing place. And but I went to the opposite of a diverse experience. I went to an all-male, very small, ultra-Orthodox Jewish college where we spent from about 9 in the morning to about 6 o'clock at night in religious studies, and from 6 to about 9 p.m. in college. And then from 9 to 11 back in religious studies. So I had a lot of free time. I was just hanging out in New York all the time. I really got to see New York. I barely left from the dorm to the school, back to the dorm to the school. A couple years into my college experience, a magazine in San Diego reached out to me for this really tacky article. And I just want to show one quick quote to highlight what I was actually doing. You know those like graphics, like what people think you're doing versus what you're actually doing in life. So in this article from 2003, they're like, my mind wandered off to Ben Greenberg. Had he really gone to rabbinical school? Maybe he hadn't. Oh no. But this is what I was actually doing. I was studying Talmud all day, essentially, which is a book of many, many books of Jewish thought and Jewish law written in Aramaic, in Hebrew letters, which is a wonderful ancient language. It's still spoken in some parts of Syria, and it's spoken amongst the Jewish community. So I was studying that, and then once I became a rabbi, I was doing things like this. Talking about matzah and holding up a piece of matzah, because every rabbi needs a picture of themselves holding a piece of matzah. It is very important. It's like you graduate, you learn Torah, and you have to hold matzah. These are the two essential ingredients. I was actually at this point leading a social justice Passover Seder in the south side of Chicago on the topic of gun violence, which, if you're not from the States, is still regrettably a major issue. And I was, at that time, a community organizer in Chicago. And so that was what I was actually doing in my life. I wasn't doing anything else. I'd actually gone to rabbinical school. But then, fast forward 10 years, and I decided I wanted to have a change in pace. And at my 10-year mark in my career, I said, you know, I can either keep on doing this for life, I can go back to being what I really love, which is a nerd. And I went to Flatiron School, which is a boot camp in New York City. It's now part of the WeWork family, the international co-working space. And at the Flatiron School, I met a lot of people like me. I met graphic designers and musicians and artists and teachers and lawyers and salespeople and, yes, rabbis. In fact, my colleague at the company I work at now is a developer who sits right behind me, is also a former rabbi who went to the Flatiron School, and we went together. So, and we're not the only ones. In fact, we have a whole Slack channel just for rabbis turned developers. The conversations are fascinating. It's a mix of Hebrew and English and Yiddish all the time. It's awesome. If you want to know how to say some coding terminology in Yiddish, we can talk later. So we transitioned to coding for a lot of reasons. We did it because we love the ability to create. Coding, while it's incredibly technical, it's a highly, highly technical field, it's an incredibly creative field. And for those of us who come from other creative professions, whether it was art or clergy or somewhere else, you get to exercise that part of your brain all the time as a programmer in different ways, in totally different modalities, but you still get to create all the time. And we also love it because of jobs. There's a lot of jobs as a programmer. New York City, there are tons of programming jobs. It is awesome. When you have a family to support, it's even better. And we love it because of the excitement of learning. You never stop learning as a programmer. It actually reminds me of my rabbinical school education. It never ends. Every time I open a blog post, I'm like, what is that word? What does that even mean? Now there's another JavaScript framework. How can I pick up that? It just never stops. And we also love it because of jobs. Did I say that already? I think I did. We love the fact that we can make an impact. When we're working at whatever kind of company we work at, I work at a financial services company, if you work at a nonprofit, you can really make a difference. You go to work, and when it's a good day, and not every day is obviously a good day, but when you go and have a good day, you can leave that day and you say, I've actually done something, quantitatively done something. I started here and I ended here. And there's something really powerful about that. And we also love jobs. There's the theme. And we love the remote work culture. There was a day where my car had an issue and I had to take it to the shop, so I took my laptop to the shop, then I went to a coffee shop, and then I went somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and I work from home. And those of you who work remotely, I'm only a little jealous of you, but we love the fact you can really take your work with you, and of course there's some downsides to that as well, but the idea that you don't have to be tethered to a desk all day or all night. And we also love jobs, yes. And did I mention jobs? Jobs are awesome. And I put that there several times, not only to be funny, but because, yes, this is a great career for people who are looking for something that's exciting, something you can make an impact, something that has remote work culture, something where you can really create, and a lot of potential to actually take care of yourself, to take care of your family, and to be economically secure, which in this world we really can't take for granted. And so in the boot camp process, first comes the learning. And the learning is awesome. It's hard to describe how awesome the learning is. You start from nothing. I mean, the last time I coded was in Perl, and JavaScript was not really a thing in 1997. And so you start learning everything anew, essentially, and it never ends. It's like an endless sea of functions and methods, and you're like, I like the gems of Ruby, and I like the snakes of Python, and I like all these things, and it's so awesome. And then when you're ready, at some point, whether you finish the boot camp or you're self-taught and you feel like you're ready to get out there in the job market, so you got to polish the resume, and you have to wonder about how do I turn all this non-tech experience into a resume that won't just get thrown out by the filters, and then you polish that resume, you start going on interviews, you have those cultural interviews. Why do you want to work here? Because you'll pay me. And then you get past those cultural conversations, and then you get to the whiteboard. And the whiteboard can be absolutely terrifying if you're anyone. Whether you come from a CS background or you don't come from a CS background, whether you've done this for a long time or you're doing this just for the first day, it's a terrifying experience. And it's even more so, I would imagine, and I don't know your experience if you come from a CS background, I know my experience, that if you don't, it's a nightmare. Because on multiple levels, there's multiple points for why it's challenging. One is, at the boot camp, whatever boot camp you went to, the chances are you learned how to do things. You learned, maybe you learned React, you learned JavaScript, you learned maybe another language. Ruby is a fun one to learn at boot camps. You learn how to code. Right? But you don't necessarily learn the algorithms. You don't learn about data structures. You don't learn about the things that you will learn if you go to a 4-year traditional CS degree. And yet oftentimes when you're standing in front of that whiteboard and all you have is that marker and the eraser and a bunch of eyes intently staring at you and watching you, they're asking you what kind of questions? They're often asking you questions about data structures, or they're asking you algorithmic questions. They're not asking you to create a React component on the whiteboard. They're not asking you to create a function that does X, Y, or Z, or even the fun ones, like palindrome functions. Give me palindrome functions. Those are fun. They're not asking those. They're asking typically algorithmic questions, which you don't prepare for. So what do you do all day when you're not interviewing? I had in my backpack a little tiny whiteboard that I took with me everywhere. And whether I was in between picking my kids up from daycare or I was at a coffee shop, I had the whiteboard out and I was practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing algorithmic questions. And I had that big book. You know what big book I'm talking about? Cracking the Coding interview book. And it simultaneously freaked me out and freaked me out, basically. And I just practiced all day. I looked a little crazy, sitting in Starbucks with a whiteboard, writing things that kind of look like English, but not really English. If you're like, what is that guy doing? Do I need to be worried? And so that's what I did. And so what I want to do with our time, the remaining time, is to talk about how we can go from this to this. In this experience. And I'm not going to solve it, and we're not necessarily going to go from all the way from this all the way to that, but hopefully we'll go from a total nightmare to not as freaked out, might be the goal. And these things come from my own experiences, just things that helped me to prepare, general principles. So we're going to talk about some of those general principles, and then we're going to apply them to one example, a relatively easy example, but an example that we can cover in the time we have. So first principle is to know your strengths. Know what you're good at. So if you come to this field with a liberal arts degree, it's not like you come from ground zero. You have skills. They may not be the same exact skills, or you're not necessarily as strong in the exact skills as somebody who came from a CS background has, but you also have skills that they might not have as well. And if you understand the skills that you do have, you know where you are strong, you can actually translate some of the problems into a language that resonates with you, into a language that speaks to you. So for example, which one of these makes more sense to you? This? Does that make sense to anyone? I see a couple of head nods. Or this. Does that make sense to anyone? So this makes absolutely no sense to me. That might as well be like Greek or something. And no offense to people who are from Greece, it might as well be Greek. This doesn't make sense at first, but I know English. And I know English really well. And so I can actually parse this and translate into something that's meaningful. The negation of a disjunction is the conjunction of the negations. It's essentially like the opposites, right? The negation of something that's together is the conjunction of two things that are not the same, right? So you can translate these things. That's De Morgan's laws. It's a logic principle. And so oftentimes whiteboard interviews are presented, the challenge is presented from somebody who comes from a world where this makes a lot more sense than this. And so the question with the unintended bias, the biases that we all carry around in ourselves on a plethora of things, whatever they are, we also have biases for how we learn. And so we'll present to someone who's interviewing a certain way, a formulation of a question, thinking that might be an easier way to understand it. But ultimately, for the person who's interviewing, that might not be the way that they think. So in general, and by the way, it's also okay that if neither of these made sense. Right? It's okay, because it's complicated. But in general, technically minded people who have a more technical proclivity, you like to limit the number of words. And so it's all about being lazy, right? Being a lazy programmer. Being as efficient as possible with a minimum amount of typing you can possibly type. Like if I can have a shortcut in my IDE that will put a whole function there, that's amazing. I want to do that. And I want to make sure if I can do this in 15 words or 15 keystrokes, or I can do it in 3, I'll do it in 3. And obviously readability is an issue as well, but you want to limit the number of words. Liberal arts people like to think about how we can turn one word into a sentence. How can we make one sentence into a paragraph? How can we make one paragraph into an essay? And how can we make one essay into an entire dissertation? That was essentially what you did. So rabbis talk for a long time, sometimes in their sermons. Clergy, priests, rabbis, imams talk for a long time in their sermons. And it's often because we like to talk about that idea over and over again. I want to make sure that you really got what I'm talking about. If I say it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, that's not enough for you. I need to say it 4 times and 5 times. Maybe for you, over there, 8 titimes. I need to say the idea so many times. And at the end of it, you think you did a good job, and your congregation's like, what the heck just happened? Does he think I'm an idiot? But it's because we're very verbose, and I'm being verbose right now by talking about it a lot. I'm demonstrating it. And so that's very important, to be able to translate into a language that speaks for you. Principle number 2 is every building starts with the first brick. Every complex idea is ultimately a collection of smaller ideas. And those smaller ideas can be broken down to even smaller ideas. It's kind of like a multi-dimensional array. You can break down ideas and unpack them until you get to that first foundational idea. And then, so you're presented with the building. The problem is the building. And your job, if this is helpful for you, is to deconstruct the building. Thank you. To deconstruct the building and then build it back up again. So if you deconstruct it and then build it back up again, that can help you understand more. And lastly, principle number 3, interviewing is iterative. It's an iterative process. At first, I was horrible at it. I'm still pretty bad at it. I don't know why I'm talking about it. But interviewing is an iterative process. And if you understand your failures as opportunities to grow from them, then you'll get better. So this is a quote I really like. It's from a rabbi from Brooklyn in the 20th century, Rabbi Yitzchak Kutner. And he wrote that a righteous person falls 7 times, it rises again, because the knowledgeable are aware that the essence of their rising rising again is because of their 7 falls. It's not in spite of your 7 falls, it's actually because you fell. And you don't need a rabbi or a priest or an imam to tell you this. There's so much self-help literature out there. Like, look at that handsome guy. What a nice punam, we would say, or a nice face. But a handsome guy wrote a book called Win at Losing, how our biggest setbacks can lead to our greatest gains. And that's not alone. There's you go to Barnes & Noble, and it's like entire, half of the bookstore is on the topic of how to win by losing. And ultimately, because there's a lot of truth to that. And so let's take an example, binary search. It's a good example. It's a relatively simple example. We can apply these principles to it. So what is it? So applying principle number 1, know your strengths. Move. There we go. So binary is not a word that's typically in the lexicon of liberal arts folks. So let's break down the word binary. Binary essentially is one or the other, right? 0 or 1, on or off, one or the other search. It's a method of searching in one or the other place. So what's that similar to? It's similar to finding your name at a conference. You find your name at a conference. If your name is like mine, Greenberg, you're not going to start at the very end of the table, and you're probably not going to start at the very beginning of the table, but you're going to start relatively near the beginning. And you're going to see that you landed at D or landed at F, and then you're going to narrow and limit down. That's essentially binary search. So let's apply that principle 1 brick at a time. It's an ordered list. The list is split into 2, and I have a desired value. So I'm going to look through something I find that's closest to it. I look through that section, and is it there? Yes, it is there. Then we party. It's awesome. It's there. We're so happy. Is it not there? No, then at least we can eliminate a range of values and we can make 2 new sections. And then until we found it. And we found it, then we are so happy. And in fact, psychologists tell us looking at cute puppies makes us happy. So let's just do that one more time. Do you feel the serotonin? Feel happy? It's awesome. Yeah, right? It's great. So we're very happy. We looked at a cute puppy. That's essentially it. And applying principle number 3, interviewing is iterative. And so you're at that whiteboard. You don't know what to do. And so the one thing not to do with the whiteboard is to freeze. Write something down. It may not be the perfect thing. It may not be the best thing, but at least it's something. So for me, and I know I'm a relatively new developer, but this is how fast JavaScript moves. For me, it's much easier to think in ES5 than ES6. It's more natural for me. I jump to ES5 to function declarations. And I know interviewers might want to see you declare a function with ES6 syntax. Or is he really hip and cool? Does he know the newest stuff? But it's easy. But I don't want to just freeze at the board and do nothing. So I'm going to start writing something. I'll just declare a function. It's not nothing in it yet, but I know I need items. I need a value. So I'll declare a function. And then I'm going to declare some variables. And then I'll write the rest of it. And it's not perfect. It's totally not perfect. It doesn't take case of edge cases. It doesn't factor in any of those issues. Math.floor might not be super fast. It's not the best function in the world, but it gets the job done. And then when you get the job done, you get to do the best part of the whiteboard interview, which you get to talk about your code. Because while you're talking about your code with the interviewers, then you have an opportunity to actually think about it out of the stress of writing it, and you can go back and you can start making it better. Because can that be made better? Yes, we can. We can make it better by making it into ES6, and we can use the bitwise or 0 operator, which is not a perfect thing either, but it is, from a performance perspective, it is actually faster. We take into at least one edge case that if the value is less than the first thing and greater than the last thing, let's just exit out of it because we don't need to continue the search. We switch the if-else statement into a ternary operator. We do a little bit to at least make it a little better. And can we make that better? Of course we can make that better. Are we going to do it right now? No, because I got 1 minute left. But we can totally make that better, and it can keep on improving because interviewing is iterative. Because interviewing, coding, learning, growing, living are all, if this was slower, is iterative. All this stuff. Your life is iterative. The process is iterative. So to recap, 3 principles: know what your brain power is, take the building apart 1 brick at a time, and rinse, wash, and repeat. And ultimately, I'll leave you with one quote because I have to, because I am a rabbi still. A quote from Jewish tradition. This is from around the 200 CE. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor velo ata v'charin livatel mimena, which essentially means it's not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. The thing that is both amazing about programming is the never-ending journey, but if you see the journey as actually the destination and not continually get freaked out that you're never going to end, then it becomes a process that's not only a freaking out moment on interviews, but actually becomes an enjoyable experience. Thank you very much.